Table of contents, brutal truth, regulatory, rundown startup horror stories, founder FAQ advice, you didn't ask for last laugh. The daily newsletter for intellectually curious readers. Join over 4 million Americans who start their day with 1440, your daily digest for unbiased, fact centric news. From politics to sports, we cover it all by analyzing over 100 sources. Our concise 5-minute read lands in your inbox each morning at no cost. Experience news without the noise. Let 1440 help you make up your own mind. Sign up now and invite your friends and family to be part of the informed. Join for free today. Brutal Truth Friends. Without benefits, want to know what isn't as fun as sipping wine with your bestie while vegging out to The Bachelor on Monday night? Treating your startup like a group project. This isn't high school, and you're not building a volcano for the school science fair. You're building a business that needs to survive market swings, of which we have had plenty lately, investor ghostings, and the occasional 48-hour stretch without sleep or sunlight. So why hire your friend or roommate instead of someone who actually knows how to write the code, manage the cash flow, or do literally anything relevant to the role? You think that hiring friends feels safe, but take my own cautionary tale that friends are not always safe, or your friends. As someone who brought on my friend, and I use those parentheses very intentionally, to be my co founder only to find out a year later that she was a con artist and had none of the experience she said, it can be a very costly mistake. For me, nearly 6 figures. But hey, I get it. Your friend won't look at you like you have 3 heads when you start ranting about CAC to LTV ratios over mimosas at brunch or a beer during the game. Comfort does not always convert. And your brunch or game day buddy who once set up their own Squarespace page is not your CMO, CTO, or CFO. They're someone who might tank your runway or spend your savings because you didn't want to feel awkward or uncomfortable explaining why marketing should involve more than Canva and that current TikTok trend. So let's be real, because it's what we're known for here. Firing a friend sucks, and being taken advantage of by someone you thought was a friend sucks even more. It's like breaking up, but with spreadsheets, backlogged linear tasks, and mutual friends who now feel like the kid in a divorce who has to pick a side between parents. No one wins. No thanks. Hiring your friends and family is a bad effing idea and shouldn't be your first of the many mistakes in your founder journey. You're not being heartless, you're being responsible and a leader. You wouldn't let your bestie perform a surgery just because they watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy and really feel like they get McDreamy, so don't let them run ops just because they think they once used Airtable. Build a real team, not a sleepover club. Your friends can be your biggest cheerleader from the sidelines. Invest if they're serious believers in your vision, or even join when your Series B has room for sentimental hires. But in the early stage, when your runway and future depends on talent and knowledge, you need sharks, killers, not karaoke partners. Regulatory rundown, what Congress did this week that doesn't suck. I started my career as an auditor, which, for those unfamiliar, is basically like being the IRS's messier, more awkward cousin. I was the person businesses paid a lot of money to dig through their books, point out everything they were doing wrong, and then hand them a glorified yikes in PDF form. I never fully understood why everyone hated auditors until I became a founder. Now, asking me for full access to my back-end systems and 6 years of bank statements feels like you're also asking for my childhood trauma and my browser history. Hard pass. Being a founder is hard, like hard with all caps and maybe a tiny scream into a void. So imagine my shock when Congress actually did something helpful. The Access Act of 2025, that's Amendment for Crowdfunding Capital Enhancement and Small Business Support Act for those who enjoy word soup, just slid into our lives like a sneaky little angel in business casual. TLDR, the law raised the threshold for when you need reviewed financials during a crowdfunding raise from $100,000 to $25,000. Translation, less money spent on professional financial judgment, more money for actual business stuff. Or oat milk lattes. We don't judge, bwahaha, yes we do, but I wanted to say that anyway. Here's what that means in normal people language. If you're raising under $250K from crowdfunding, you no longer have to hire a CPA to comb through your QuickBooks and ask why you labeled your Uber Eats charges as R&D. This change removes a big expensive hurdle and makes it a little easier to get your friends, fans, and random internet weirdos to fund your genius idea without the shame spiral of showing anyone your actual books. No more launching a sketchy token project just to pay your dev. Unless that's your thing, in which case, namaste, you beautiful degenerate. This bill is Congress basically saying, okay, fine, maybe not all startups are crypto scams run out of a Discord server. Early stage founders typically have more ideas than money and fewer resources than your mom's MLM side hustle. This law gives you a small, blessed window where the government backs off and lets you try to build something without an audit shaped noose around your neck. Thanks, legislative overlords. You're not totally useless after all. But don't get too comfortable, cowboy. Just because you don't need reviewed financials doesn't mean you can half ass your disclosures. People are still giving you money, not adopting your bearded dragon. Be transparent. Be prepared. And for the love of all things caffeinated, don't forget to tell investors that you blew half the budget on a rebrand and TikTok ad with 14 views. This isn't Real Housewives, it's your reputation. Snark free startup checklist, how to actually use this without screwing it up reality check. First, figure out if raising under 250K is realistic for your needs or just you avoiding hard conversations with VCs. Disclose or die. No CPA required doesn't mean lie on your pitch deck. Be honest or risk public roasting. Pick the right platform. Not all crowdfunding sites are built the same. Some are legit, others are digital swap meets. Activate your cult, community, crowdfunding success. Attention plus trust. So, yes, it's time to fire up the LinkedIn humble brags and guilt trip your college friends. Know where it's going. Have an actual plan for that money. If your entire use of funds is build MVP with no timeline or details, you might need a nap and a strategy doc. Remember, while the Access Act makes crowdfunding more accessible, success still hinges on your ability to present a compelling, trustworthy proposition to potential investors. We recommend talking with a financial partner that you can afford and trust. Get a free 1 to 2 page financial review from our partner, https FinSuit Consulting. Q, no strings attached unless that's your thing, because we don't like to yuck someone's yum. Silicon Valley's most expensive hand job. Listen up, you dirty little disruptors, because this is the story of how Silicon Valley got the world's most expensive hand job, and somehow everyone walked away unsatisfied. Welcome to Juicero, where manual stimulation got a 120 milliliters upgrade that nobody asked for. Meet Doug Evans, a man who looked at his hands one day and thought, what if we made these obsolete but sexy? Doug was the kind of founder who definitely practiced tantric juice cleansing and probably whispered exponential growth during climax. Armed with nothing but raw sexual energy for vegetables and a pitch deck that must have included some serious safe words, he set out to build the Hitachi magic wand of juice extraction. For just $699, down from a truly pornographic $1,200, you could own what was essentially a mechanical dom for your produce. This sleek, well-lubricated beast promised to squeeze your bags with 2 tons of force, because apparently size does matter when you're trying to impress Silicon Valley. It even needed Wi-Fi to perform, making it the first kitchen appliance with performance anxiety. But like any disappointing hookup, the truth came out. Some journalists at Bloomberg decided to try a little manual manipulation of their own and achieved the same results without all the expensive foreplay. Turns out, those bags were easier to squeeze than a VC at demo day. The news spread faster than a hot singles in your area virus, and suddenly, Juicero was caught with its pants down. The company tried to save face harder than a tech bro, explaining his body count is actually his GitHub contributions. It's about the experience, they moaned, as if watching a $700 machine slowly squeeze a bag was somehow more satisfying than doing it yourself. Meanwhile, your grandmother was getting better results with her arthritic grip than this mechanical fluffer with a Stanford degree. By late 2017, Juicero had finished prematurely, leaving investors feeling used and unsatisfied. Doug disappeared faster than your Hinge match after a bad first date, probably off to develop a blockchain enabled vibrator that only works during Mercury retrograde. The moral? Sometimes a hand job is just a hand job, even if you dress it up in Yves Bayard design and give it more sensors than a Tesla. If your startup's entire value proposition can be replicated by what teenagers discover at age 13, maybe reconsider that unicorn valuation. Now, excuse me while I go pitch my new startup. It's like OnlyFans, but for watching rich people lose money on stupid investments. Series A opens next week. This time, we promise to use protection. Start learning AI in 2025. Keeping up with AI is hard. We get it. That's why over 1M professionals read Superhuman AI to stay ahead. Get daily AI news, tools, and tutorials. Learn new AI skills you can use at work in 3 minutes a day. Become 10x more productive. Sign up and start mastering AI Founder FAQ. When should we formalize HR processes? Q. When should we formalize HR processes? A. The second you hire someone who isn't your dog. Seriously, HR isn't something you circle back on after your fourth accidental hire and an oops equity grant to that guy you met at a hackathon. It's something you need before someone cries in a meeting, rage quits in the Slack, or asks if PTO applies to Burning Man. The moment you're responsible for another human's paycheck, you're also responsible for making sure Karen from sales doesn't get cornered by Brad from DevOps doing shirtless burpees at his standing desk. Yes, it happened. No, it wasn't pretty. At minimum, get yourself a real employee handbook, PDF, not a Google Doc called Culture Thoughts V2 Draft Final. Actual policies, like typed out, with words, especially around time off, harassment, and why Zoom calls are not pants optional. A way to report complaints that isn't text the founder at 11 p.m. Because once someone files a complaint and your only documentation is a crying emoji in Slack, congratulations, you're not a startup anymore. You're a future lawsuit with a logo. And no, your college roommate who once took a psych elective doesn't count as head of people. Get help, real help, before you become content for someone else's podcast about toxic startup culture. Advice you didn't ask for. Without business, there would be no charity, but without charity, what's the point of business? Sir Alec Reed, founder of Reed Executive and The Big Give a Damn, Strategically Okay, this week we're doing something a little different. Instead of just roasting your hiring decisions or mocking your disruptive new Chrome extension for parking meter sharing, we're going to talk about something that matters, like actually matters. Meet Inspire. World Foundation, a nonprofit that's not trying to scale juice bags or mint NFTs of your dog's paw. They work directly with community groups to empower survivors of trafficking, violence, and abuse by doing something most of us take for granted, giving them access to the tools that help rebuild a life. And I don't mean vision boards and inspirational mugs. I mean banking access, trauma-informed education programs, safe housing support, and a path to actual financial dignity. Why are we spotlighting this in a startup newsletter that usually features memes and headlines like Silicon Valley's most expensive hand job? Because if you're building a company in 2025 and your definition of impact ends at your quarterly MRR update, you're doing it wrong. Supporting nonprofits like Inspire. World isn't just a feel-good side quest, it's smart strategy. Partnering with purpose-driven orgs helps your team stay grounded, gives your brand something real to stand for, and, let's be honest, looks way better in a pitch deck than that forced diversity stock photo you've been recycling. You know the one, the guy with a beard laughing at a laptop? Yeah, him. Want to work with a nonprofit that doesn't suck? Inspire. World is actively looking to partner with startups, professionals, and capital providers who actually want to build an economy that isn't just for dudes named Bryce who wear Allbirds to investor meetings. They're scaling, they're organized, and they have a clear 5-year growth plan from $5, 7M to $8 in impact, which is probably more traction than your last 10 accelerator cohorts combined. So here's your unsolicited but deeply necessary advice. Stop doom scrolling. Start giving a damn. Find a nonprofit whose mission aligns with your startup's values and build with them, not just for PR, but because it's the right thing to do. And if you don't have values yet, borrow Inspire. worlds until you grow some. Check them out here because founder means you can build anything. So maybe start with something good. At the R33F, we're working directly with Inspire, World, and other NFPs to ensure that we have impact with our project. The last laugh. Learn how to make AI work for you. AI won't take your job, but a person using AI might. That's why 1,000 plus professionals read the Rundown AI, the free newsletter that keeps you updated on the latest AI news and teaches you how to use it in just 5 minutes a day. Sign up to start learning.